So by the time this podcast comes out, we will have hit 10 million ARR.
This is David Park, and he was right. His startup reached 10 million a year just few days later. But it wasn't always like this.
I was kind of an NPC and I was kind of like a side character, and my opinions and my thoughts really didn't seem to matter for a lot of my life.
8 years ago, David was working from his parents' bedroom, asking his mom Chipotle money while his friend landed a high-paying job at Microsoft.
My parents sacrificed so much for me, and I didn't want to be like a loser carrying my family's last name.
He failed nearly for a decade before finding an idea that would change his entire life.
Dude, when the $100,000 first hit our company bank account, we had never seen that much money. That was like the craziest day of my entire life.
So what is his secret? While everyone reads the same startup blogs and follows the same playbook, David steals distribution strategies from completely different industries.
We were really early to use. There was basically this like really amazing marketing channel that very few SaaS founders really understood or cared about.
In this conversation, David reveals what he would do if he had to start from zero in 2026, his experience about raising money versus bootstrapping, and how he kept going when everything collapsed.
It was probably the worst time of my entire life. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, like about a year and a half ago.
So David, you were working from your parents' bedroom, asking your mom for Chipotle money, while your friends
Yes.
were getting high-paying jobs at companies like Microsoft. How did you feel at that point?
Uh, I mean, not great. I think it's human nature to always like want to compare yourself to other people, but just had to fuel that energy into trying to make my own life better, I guess. But yeah, it was a trying, difficult period of my life, I would say.
I'm asking you this question because I'm
Yeah,
sure a lot of people who will watch that are in this situation right now. So
yeah,
it's always nice to have the background before talking about all your success. But to come
yeah.
back there, like what was your main motivation? What made you want to actually succeed?
I mean, it's a holistic thing, you know. It's not just one motivation. Obviously, my parents sacrificed so much for me, and I didn't want to be like a loser, carrying my family's last name. So that was a big motivation. Um, we alluded to it earlier of like, I didn't want to be like the odd one out among my friends who just who wasn't able to accomplish anything. So that was definitely a big motivator as well. Just I've only experienced life from my perspective, from my point of view. So, from my perspective, I always felt like a protagonist of my story, but for some reason, life just it seemed like I was kind of an NPC and I was kind of like a side character, and you know, my opinions and my thoughts really didn't seem to matter for a lot of my life. Even now, a lot of times it doesn't, but um, you know, by putting in the hours and trying to um, do some good work, try to make a little bit of value, put out something good in the world, something helpful. I think that was something that motivated me as well. So yeah, all those things. And obviously like money also motivated me. Wanting to be like slightly more popular to girls probably also motivated me. Just yeah, I mean it's hard to pinpoint on one thing. I think everyone is hardwired a little bit to want to dream and to want things, and I'm a human just like everybody. So all those things motivated me. Yeah.
And I heard that you kept actually dreaming for 8 years. During eight
Mm,
years, you didn't have a lot of success online.
yeah.
And what did you learn during this time that helped you today to actually build, launch Jenni and do almost 10 million a year?
Yeah. I mean, by the time this podcast comes out, I think we're like 40K ARR away from 10 million. So by the time this podcast comes out, we will have hit 10 million ARR,
That's
which is pretty
amazing.
exciting. But yeah, I mean, over the 8 years, I mean, um, it's tough to pinpoint the things you learn. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. Like I could tell you like the granular details of like, oh, you want to make sure you're shifting your momentum and you're the you're syncopating your like right foot and your left foot and you're keeping X amount of pressure on the handle. It's like it's kind of just you get on the bike and you fall and you fall and you fall and eventually like the things you learn is like how painful it is when you scrape your knee. You learn like what gravel kind of tastes like. You learn kind of like what top speed you were able to hit yesterday and what top speed you want to hit the day after. So yeah, I mean, I wish there was like some sexy thing of like, oh, if I could sum up my 8 years of learning, it's that you need to do this one kind of secret thing. If I was probably selling a course, that's probably like what I would want to say. But there's a lot of things like like when it comes to how to talk to users, like there's so many little things I learned over the 8 years, like how to actually make your product delightful, how to get them to aha moment kind of faster, like which distribution channel is best in which situation, how to actually build out, these campaigns for each of these channels, how to hire a right team, how to incentivize the team, how to raise money, how to acquire company, all these things like, but it's not like I wouldn't say any one of these skills is the big thing that really made the difference. It's kind of like uh, you kind of have to be a generalist, I would say, and know a little bit of all these things to succeed.
Yeah, basically, these 8 years of experiment built this overnight success that you have right now.
Exactly. It's super easy. It all happened in one night. It was anyone can do it. No, I'm just kidding. It was very, very difficult. Yeah, it was a tough journey.
Yeah, click on the link below to buy the course, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's $2,000 for the first course. And then once you get in that course, there's a $3,000 upsell for the real course. And then there's $100 a month to like stay in the Discord community. Yeah.
And I'm hooked. I will buy it.
Yeah, yeah. We're
Well,
kidding. We're
talking
kidding,
about,
by the way. There's no course.
yeah,
We're kidding.
no, don't go
Okay.
for it. Um, Talking about course, actually, let's do a mini course. You did a super thread like a year ago, I think almost 2 years ago,
Yeah.
how to go from 0 to 3 million a year.
Hmm.
And I would like to do it again here. If you had
Okay.
to start over in 2026, you probably learned a lot of things since January 2024. How
Sure.
would you find an idea, raise money or not, build a
Yeah.
product, and distribute it?
Yeah. I mean, the first most important thing is I would just not build anything unless I felt like there was actually something that people are willing to pay for. So my first probably few weeks would just be talking to anybody that would talk to me, and I would just say, what's like a role you're trying to hire for? Or like of the people you've hired, what's something you wish they did better? Or like what's like a problem in your company, you know? And then they would tell me some problem, and I would say, okay, well, if I solve that for you, would you pay me like a few hundred a month for that? And probably 9 out of 10 times they'll say no because they're just complaining and they don't actually care that much about what they're talking about. But eventually you'll come upon some issue that's so painful that you could see kind of like the delight in their eyes and they'll say, well, yeah, I'd love to pay you 100, 200, 1,000 a month to get that solved. And then what I would do is I would kind of figure out at that point, can I just build this myself or like me and like another technical person, could we just build it within a month? Or do we got to raise a little bit of money or do we need to um, is it not as straightforward as just like um, as some ideas are on the market. So yeah, and then from there, um, but I'd start thinking about how to distribute that. So I already have one person that I know kind of wants this, that's willing to pay for it. I mean, I would literally make them pay for it before I even built it, because that's like the best way to validate something. And then I think, how can I get in front of as many of the people that's similar to this person as I can? And that'll maybe take a few days or weeks of thinking about it, and then I'll probably try a few things. I mean, it looks different. Like it could be a TikTok campaign, it could be like sponsoring conferences, it could be, sponsoring influencers, it could be going into like Facebook groups, it could be doing cold calls. I'm not sure what, it depends on the idea what it is, but I'd get some hypotheses and then I'd run a few distribution campaigns, and then eventually I hope one will work sooner rather than later. And from there, you're kind of off the races, and you just make the product better 1% week over week. You like get a little better at understanding user persona, so your marketing kind of gets better week over week. And yeah, eventually you should have a product. If the addressable market is if the TAM is big enough, you should have a tool that is making a respectable amount of money, I'd say. Yeah.
Because probably a lot of people don't know that Jenny was a service before, right?
Yeah, Jenny was the agency before. Yeah.
And you started with the agency, so you were selling the service, and then you build the tool that actually kind of remove
Right.
the service. And that's what you will do
Exactly.
again.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably try to skip the agency this time around, but an agency is a really quick way to make money. So example, if I had no money, like the fastest way to make money is to start an agency. It's like it's a terrible life. Like running an agency is very painful and like I would not wish it upon my worst enemy. But if you need like 1,000 or $5,000 a month, it is pretty easy to do that with an agency, I would say. And I don't say that lightly. Like there are people that say like, oh, this is easy, that's easy, everything's easy, but like an agency, it's actually somewhat easy. Of course, you have to be willing to get rejected a lot, and you have to be willing to do the work that nobody really wants to do. But if you're willing to do those two things, then you can make money pretty fast with some sort of agency. You just have to like upskill yourself really fast, and find clients. But yeah, ideally you could skip that phase and just go straight to a SaaS. But it's obviously the ideal situation often doesn't work out. So you have to do what you got to do.
You didn't know how to code when you started Jenny, so you found a
Yeah.
co-founder who actually knew how to
Yeah.
code. What were
Yes.
your skills?
My skills, honestly, if we're being like totally honest, my skills were pretty bad. I guess my only two skills that were maybe worth mentioning at the start was one, I had like a super high risk tolerance. So I was able to like, I was totally open to dropping out of college. Whatever money I had in my bank account, I would be happy to throw it all into whatever product we had. And then also kind of like being resilient, I guess, is another thing that was kind of, I guess, helpful in the early days where if I needed to, I would work odd jobs. I would do the really unglamorous parts of running a company, which you think is like a bare minimum, but there are many founders these days that are kind of more so in love with like the more glitzy, glamorous parts of the job and not really willing to do like the more really shitty parts of the job. But yeah, I mean, over time, I feel bad for my co-founder in the early days because I feel like he was bringing so much to the table because he was like a technical, wizard, but and I wasn't really as talented in terms of like running the business side. There's nothing more like kind of obnoxious than like the guy who says, "Oh yeah, you do all the coding, I'll do the business side," and like that they don't actually know anything. They don't actually do anything, And I would say in the early days, I don't think I was like that caricature, but I was more like that caricature than makes me comfortable. But yeah, eventually over time, I learned like the more basic things of being a founder, which is like how to actually, um, talk to users, how to actually get users to get to your product, how to convert them into users and then paid users, and then how to retain them, how to build teams, So yeah, I think uh, it is a very valuable skill set, obviously, to be technical. So if you're a non-technical person, you should really be trying to carry your weight on your side, I would say, which is usually has to do with the distribution, usually has to do with like all the important tasks that keep the lights on, whether it's like fundraising or like being the kind of CEO, it's like it's a filtration system of like everybody at the top solves all the problems that they can solve. So then you get stuck with when it's all filtered down, you get stuck with like the most terrible, craziest, like unsolvable issues. And so, um, being a non-technical founder, you have to be able to kind of solve all of these very difficult, almost existential issues. And obviously, that's not easy. So yeah, I don't even know wouldn't remember the question you asked, but yeah, that's my answer.
And that was an amazing answer. Um, would you, if you had the money, would you hire a dev or would you find another co-founder?
I don't know. I mean, if I was like money maxing, I would probably hire a dev. If I was like, if I felt really like, if I felt like I had a really crystallized vision of an exact product that I knew would do really well, then I would probably hire a dev because it's just kind of better for all parties where um, there's no point bringing on like a technical founder and then just like not really allowing them to kind of create this thing with you because you have this kind of like already built idea in your head. But then if I have something more kind of amorphous and I don't actually know the end state, but I just kind of know what market it lives in and just like more of a high level idea, then I would definitely get like a technical founder because um, I think it's super valuable to have another person to kind of help you like tease out the correct way to build this thing. And yeah, I mean, typically I don't really like money max. Like that's not really like I'm more so like people max if we look at like anecdotally throughout my life. So no matter what I build, I would always want to have like a co-founder or at least like a founding people because it's a really lonely, I mean, I'm sure you know, it's like a really lonely, shitty life, like just making things. Like, I don't want to just like have a dev and he just has a salary and he's happy just like clocking out. He doesn't really care about like well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but it's more likely that like a co-founder would really be waking up thinking about the problems of the company, and then before they go to sleep, thinking about like the solutions that they've come up with. So, yeah, I mean, if I were to do it again, I would probably choose a co-founder, but it's a case by case thing, and that's I would never prescribe that to anybody. It's kind of like up to you, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are dreaming about being solopreneur, and I tried it
Yeah,
myself, and I'm not at all like in love with the concept. I love to work with someone because, yeah, it's like a mini team, and you can have a
yeah,
lot of call like with this person. You share all the struggle with this person, and you're not this person on the top that is
yeah,
totally lonely and have to deal with all the outside problem. And yeah, I totally agree
yeah.
with that.
It's not. I mean, I think I have a lot of respect for solopreneurs. Like, I think they're really great, but I could never really be one. I don't think, because or maybe I could, but like at least for now, it's like, would you willingly be like a single parent? Like, would you just want to like raise a kid by yourself? Like that's obviously there's a lot of nuances and differences in situations, but like there are also some similarities. Like it's very stressful, it's very hard, and the journey is like a lot more lonely. So um, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from.
I have another question because this is a question I ask myself a lot.
Mhm.
I started online business basically following Peter Levels on Twitter in
Yeah.
2017, 2016. And
Hmm.
he always said like never raise money, never give a
Yeah.
share of your company to someone. You should like be a
Yeah.
solopreneur and it stayed in my mind. And I never really wanted to have like VC or just like ask money to anyone just to keep all the share. But there is this voice in my mind that tell me that maybe that will be the key for you to actually build the product you want. So you said, I've done the whole circus of raising money. I've also experienced the slow bootstrap lifestyle. So what is the best and why did you choose to actually not VC funding, but seed trapping, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that Peter Levels has a lot of fair points. I think there are a lot of negatives that come with raising money, but I guess since you asked, I could also tell you like some of the benefits of raising money too, which is um, you can give up some of your company, but you can in return like save a lot of your time. Like let's say you really have no, like when I started, I had literally no money, right? So and I needed to, and I was not technical, and I had a technical founder, but we also needed like maybe one or two engineers to kind of, back then there was no Claude code, so it was a lot harder to get something to the market. So either I could, you know, do a lot of odd jobs on the side, save up money, and then kind of use that money to get our product to where it needs to be. But we would move a lot slower, and maybe like my timeline of getting to Jenni to where it is today, it would have taken me an extra year because it would have been pretty tough to kind of like struggle like, and it's just like when you're desperate, when you don't have money in the bank account, you kind of end up making suboptimal decisions. Like sometimes you need to burn money in five different paths, but there's one path that will give you 20x return. But if you have no money, if you're bootstrapped, you have no money, you can't really burn the money in that way, and you have to be way more intentional with how you do things. So yeah, if you really value like your time, like maybe you shave off the upside, you sell maybe like 10-20% of your company. So instead of making $100 million, you make like 90 million or $80 million, right? To me, 100 million or 80 million, it's not that big of a difference. But if I have to spend another 1 to 3 years of my life in my 20s, or my 30s, like that's a lot of that's really valuable to me. And I would rather just kind of like get to the get to the more interesting parts of running a business. And obviously it depends on the idea too. Like there's some ideas where it's like a winner take all market. There's some ideas where you need a certain level of growth to get the flywheel started. And those ideas, you unfortunately like you cannot bootstrap those ideas, right? Like it's like um, I mean, I don't want to be too definitive about it. I guess you could bootstrap any idea in theory, like if you're really just like a genius, but it's definitely not advised to do that. So, um, what I did was I seed strapped, and I think that that's like kind of splitting it down the middle where you get some money in the beginning so you could kind of go through all the painful early days. You don't have to worry too much about money. You can kind of find product market fit. And then once you find product market fit, you can use the revenue that you get from your product to just keep the machine rolling. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for people that bootstrap. I think that the people that raised money on like the indie Twitter get a lot of shit. And maybe I think honestly, some of them do deserve a little bit of shit because maybe they raised a little bit too much, and maybe they wear that badge of honor of like I raised money, like as though they accomplished something really crazy cool, which it's cool, but it's not like as cool as some of these announcement videos kind of make it out to be, in my opinion. But yeah, I would say that the unfortunate kind of like, as with all things, like the unfortunate boring reality is like it's very nuanced of like there are good things about both sides, and so it's hard to kind of say like this side sucks, this side doesn't suck, in my opinion. So yeah,
Yeah, I can totally understand. So let's talk first about the good side of it. When
sure.
you raised money first, did your lifestyle change straight away?
Yeah, I mean, it changes a lot. I mean, when you have, we literally were like, we had like $1,000 in our bank account before we raised money. And that is like, we would literally have to beg influencers to take like $100, $300 uh, sponsorship. And if one sponsorship flopped, that was like a code red for us because that was like 30% of our runway was gone. Then when we raised, 100K angel round from Jason Calcanis, that was like a really big difference because then we could learn so much faster. We could make so many more bets, and Um, like we were just able to actually feel like we were getting some momentum behind us. And um, yeah, I mean, it's not like a personal difference. Like, it's not like I went and I bought Gucci or I went and like, I started taking Ubers everywhere or anything like that. In fact, when we got our first round of funding, we immediately flew to Malaysia because we wanted to save as much money as possible. And so, um, yeah, but I mean, it would be so much more of an interesting story if I said like, oh, I regret taking the money, you know. It's all about being a founder, you don't need investors, but like to be honest, in the early days, that money was really helpful. And um, if you're in a situation where you're literally like eating ramen every day and you have these ideas that you know are going to work, or at least like if you tinkered around with these ideas, you know that you could figure it out, but you're limited because of capital, then you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself, not just yourself, like a disservice to like your team, like the people believe in you, like everybody. So yeah,
I get what you mean. I mean, probably a lot of indie hackers on X see raising money as hiring devs to build a product. While the
right,
truth, I think, you probably know better than me, but in
yeah,
2025 is more about distribution and actually
yeah,
get the good influencer and spend the good money to actually
right,
target your customer and do
yeah,
all these different bets, like you said. And I think that's the problem sometimes that they think you are raising money to hire more dev, and they will probably say with AI, you don't need that. But
right,
distribution, you actually need money. And if you want to
right,
do like you are mainly, I think, short form, but like also if you do like YouTube influencer, for example, it costs a
right,
lot.
right. Yeah, I mean yeah. If you don't have like 1,000 or 10,000 that you can like experiment with, I would say to it's pretty hard to get a business off the ground. I mean, you can do it, but you have to be like probably like second time founders can probably do it because they're scrappy enough. But if you're just starting out, it's really honestly like you could read as many X threads as you want, but you're not gonna hit gold in your first try. Like it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some money.
Did you have a vision of not about the product, but about the distribution before raising money? How
Um, yeah, I don't think so. No, I didn't have like a clear vision. I knew like there were many different paths we could take, and um, and that's almost like another good reason to raise money too. If if you know that if you know that your product like has some value, but in order to like crack whether it's distribution or whether it's some product issue, you need a little bit of money, then that's another uh good time to raise as well. And I raised twice, right? So I raised like an angel round and like like a pre-seed round. So when I did my angel round, I would say my vision was a lot murkier, where I didn't really know exactly how I would be spending the money, but I just knew that the company was just not able to function with just how poor we were. And so I just knew that it would just be generally helpful. And of the few bets that I had in my head, obviously they weren't fully fleshed out visions, but the things I wanted to try, that obviously required money. And then when we got more to our pre-seed with like um when we were at fully a SaaS, we had a bit more of a mature product. We had some revenue under our belt. That was when I had a more clear idea of like how we can distribute and stuff.
and the first time you got the money and you had to sit and take a decision, how did you manage that?
The first time I got the money, like how did it
With the
feel or
now, like just the fact that you had this money to spend and now you have to spend it. How did you
oh yeah, it
take the
was
decision
crazy.
of where to spend it?
I don't even, dude, I mean, I don't want to like keep bringing this up, but like I had never seen like more, dude, when the $100,000 first hit our company bank account, we had never seen that much money in our entire, like that was like the craziest day of my entire life. I drove, my family came together. We all got in a car and we drove to my grandparents' house and we all just looked at my laptop together because it was like the most money we'd ever, it was like the craziest feeling ever. And yeah, like as you said, the next part, obviously, you don't raise the money just to look at it. You don't raise the money to just like go to your grandparents' house. You raise it to spend it, right? So, we obviously invested a little bit into expanding our team. We invested a little bit into marketing. But yeah, because it was just so crazy to get this money, I was very frugal about it. I didn't immediately spend it in the first like nowadays, like honestly, we spend like $500,000 per month on all of our costs, right? So $100,000, like looking at it from my perspective now, it's still a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things of like running a business, it's not that much money. But obviously, if we go back to that perspective, like I was so scared of losing this, and I was like, I felt like it was just like this could be my one shot of like having this much money in my bank account that I needed to uh, squeeze as much like ROI as I could every time I spent it. So yeah, it was a trip. That was probably like the one of the best days of my entire life. Like I'm just gonna say this as a matter of fact. Like I've made way more money. Like our bank, we've like had way more money than that 100K, but it pales in comparison to that first day when we got that 100K in our bank account. It was like uh, it was insane. I mean, even thinking about it now, it just blows my mind.
I can totally understand. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm also not coming from a rich family, and this kind
yeah,
of amount of money is not something you see every day. And the day you start to
100%.
make, let's say, just like, yeah, 5 figures on your account already, you're like, what is that? Like, am I even
Yeah,
allowed? Am I going to jail right now? Like, is this like,
exactly.
there's always this thing that happening in your brain that, yeah, some will understand and some not, but this is
100%.
a
Yeah.
crazy feeling. Um, Another question about that, like we often feel like a VC-funded startup, it's a big office in San Francisco, and you have to hire all these people, and you cannot be a digital nomad anymore. You cannot move. Do you still have the freedom that you had before?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, first of all, like a VC funded startup, it's not like a monolith, of like every VC funded startup is all the same. Sometimes you have like really chill investors. Sometimes you have like crazy investors that are always breathing down your neck. Lucky for me, I think my investors they trust that how I run the company, even if it's kind of unorthodox, I'll bring results. Typically, I mean, I really admire that they were able to trust me so much because typically, if you invest in somebody and they say, I'm going to travel around the world while I'm building this company, they would probably think that you're kind of taking them for a ride and you're not really locked in an office in SF, like, doing that. I don't even know what it's called, like 996 or 10 10 7 or like, just only working, whatever. But I think like I think everybody in the founder startup world, they all claim to say that they love contrarian ideas, they love like counterculture stuff. And then there's counterculture things that happen like, yeah, I'm gonna raise money and I'm gonna literally travel the world. I'm gonna hire people from all around the world and we're just gonna work remotely and once a year we're all gonna meet up somewhere in the world and we'll all work together and that's all it's gonna take to have like a company culture. And I mean, I don't think it's like I'm not gonna lie and say that this is the best way of doing it, but we've done somewhat well for ourselves. Like we grow every year. We Our product continues to get more delightful, and from what I can tell, I mean, I hope like the people in my company are happy and they like working with everybody on the team. So yeah, I mean, I think that I hope that there's less of like the cookie cutter stuff, Like I hope there's more kind of weird startups that emerge. Like the one person. I hope there's more solopreneurs and I hope there's more seed strappers. I hope there's more like raising the craziest round ever, trying to create like AGI and one shot startups. I hope there's like, I hope there's like a lot of diversity so that everyone like I hope there's more Clulies. I hope there's more everything, like I think that just makes the world more interesting and it allows for kind of um, every sort of founder to shine versus just the founders that are kind of thrive in like the SF, the Silicon Valley ecosystem. I've never even been to like SF. Like I think I was in SF for like a few days before like a flight where I was leaving SF, but like I'm not really of that culture at all. Like so, um, yeah, I'm happy with the choice that I made. Yeah,
I think it's amazing because, as you say, Royally, you open a new door of this kind of VC
yeah,
funded startup, and I love that. And to help other people doing it, I have a last question about VC or like
yeah,
raising money or whatever.
yeah,
You raised your first money while with a guy who was sitting next to you in a plane. So
yeah,
that was totally random.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like, what happened with it?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. So I was on a plane, I think from Seattle to San Diego. So it was a 3 hour, 4 hour flight, I think. And I was sitting next to some guy, he had his laptop open. He had Coinbase open. So at the time this was like 2018 and Bitcoin was like an extremely risky asset. So immediately I was thinking like, okay, if this guy's gonna invest in Bitcoin, this guy's willing to he's okay with investing in risky shit. So I can tell him about my startup. And the best part is once the wheels leave the runway. He's a captive prisoner for 3 hours. I could just pitch him for 3 hours. Literally cannot go anywhere. He can just, I will answer all of his questions, and I will like let him know that this is the best investment opportunity of his life. And so that's what I did. I pitched him continuously. He had all these reservations, but honestly I don't even think I did that good of a job pitching. But I think you could tell that a very strange individual. You have to be a very strange or ambitious individual to like pitch to a stranger next to you on a flight for 3 hours. And yeah, I think like literally 3 days after we landed, he just gave me a cashier's check as an investment into my company. It was the first investment I ever did. The sad, I mean the happy and sad part is at one point he just wanted his money back. So he just wanted his 10K back. Obviously, I wasn't like obligated to give it back to him because it was like an investment, but um, it just seemed like the right thing to do. It's not like I do the right thing all the time, but like I try to do it when I try to do it as often as I can. So in this instance, I knew that if I did like a few more agency shit on the side, I could pay it back. So we ended up paying him the 10K back, and I hope that he put that into crypto, and he probably had some pretty crazy returns even without the Jenni shares or whatever. But had he kept that in, he would have made a significant amount of money as well. So yeah, that's the story about that first investor.
And if someone is watching this video and is not in a plane, doesn't take a
Yeah.
plane, how do you actually raise money? Like now that you actually did it few times, like if I build a cool product tomorrow, I need money for my distribution.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Yeah, I mean it's I guess I'll start with like the cold water. It's like it's easier to raise money for some people than others. Like, for example, like it depends on your geography. It depends on a little bit like what school you graduated from or what school you dropped out of. Probably depends a little bit like if you're ex OpenAI, it's probably easy for you to raise money versus like if you're ex like, McDonald's. But the good news is on places like X, on places like Reddit, like on Instagram, like the world's gotten pretty flat. So if you can drum up a little bit of hype on these platforms, the money will come to you. So if you make something and you're able to get like some traction, and it's pretty abundantly clear that this thing can get pretty big, your odds of being able to raise money, I think, become much higher versus of just like sending cold emails saying, you know, I have this idea. Here's my pitch deck. Would love to pick a time off your calendar, things like that. The problem is like becoming a founder has gotten a little bit too sexy with like, I mean, there was like the first wave of like the social network, and then now there's the second wave of like, it seems like almost every influencer it kind of is becoming a founder, at like, which is it's like it's this strange convergence of like every influencer is becoming a founder, and every founder is becoming an influencer, and it's
Yeah.
like everyone's kind of becoming the same thing, which is just like, I guess that kind of makes sense because I guess human nature, everybody kind of wants to be like rich and powerful, I guess, and like becoming an influencer founder is kind of like getting both of those things. But anyways, like, um, yeah, the world's pretty flat, so you can you can raise money by making a name for yourself and just by doing cool shit. And if you do cool shit, uh, like all these algorithms, every single social media algorithm, they all kind of have your best interests in mind, which is they want to promote cool shit, interesting shit. Every algorithm wants to promote interesting shit. So if you do interesting shit, eventually your day will come where you are surfaced, and when you are surfaced and you're kind of amplified to the masses, investors, VCs, they are part of the masses and they will see. And I would say that's a pretty good shot of then nurturing those conversations when they kind of come in.
Amazing. The last time you did an interview, I think you were making $400,000 a month. And
Yes.
last week you did a post on Twitter
Yeah.
and you just hit 821,000 MR. What
Yes.
happened in between?
I mean, just a lot of uh like scaling stuff, like optimizing pricing, uh polishing the product, adding some extra features, acquiring some nice companies, hiring some like key personnel, making the distribution channels a bit more robust, like um, systemizing things. When it comes to like once you find something that's kind of delightful, like uh, like once you have something that people like and that people will pay for, you kind of don't even want to change it that much, right? Like if you have like, I don't know, if you have like a really, what's like a simple like I don't know, like Cal AI or something. Like you take a picture of food and like it shows you calories, right? Like um there's not that many like revolutionary features you can like, in fact, you risk by putting something in, you kind of destroy the reason people come. And so uh, when you get past a certain amount of MRR, it's really less about kind of adding revolutionary stuff to the products. Sometimes it is. I mean, I would like to think we're adding like revolutionary things still to Jenny, but there are also aspects of like, um, once you have something that's delightful, there's a lot of things that are important around that kind of feature. Like, how do you make it so it's less buggy? How do you make it so it works across multiple languages? How do you make it so, um, the you go from having 10 influencers a week to 100 influencers a week, with like, without having to like 10x your influencer team, things like that. So there's a lot of these kind of um, like problems that you have to solve as you scale that that I think are important to solve because hopefully these things that we're putting in place won't just take us from 400 to 800. Hopefully it takes us to like 400 to, millions and millions of MRR, hopefully. So, yeah, those are the main things we did. Yeah.
No, I asked a question yesterday on Twitter. I said that I would interview
Yeah.
you, and if people had question, a lot of the question were marketing, 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 UGC, UGC.
Okay.
What is your
What's
secret sauce?
my secret sauce? I don't know. I mean, my secret sauce. I mean, I would say my secret sauce maybe is like trying to learn from things outside of my current need. Like, I wouldn't say that Jenny made UGC or anything, but like we were really, really early to UGC. Like we did UGC like 3 or 4 years ago, like maybe I don't know how long, maybe 3 years ago. So it's like 3 years ish ago, I would say. We were doing UGC, and obviously nobody was doing UGC back then, except for like e-commerce, like products. And so, what's the learning there is like there was basically this like really amazing marketing channel that very few SaaS founders really understood or cared about. But it was literally public out in the open, this UGC marketing. All you had to do was just implement it from there into this vertical that you're in. And I think that's like something that I always try to do is like kind of learn not from like every me and all the Asian kids that look like me, that talk like me, that like want to make companies like me. We've all read the same blogs. We've all read the same like Peter Thiel books. We all read the same Paul Graham essays, right? Like the difference is like all of our training data, if it's the same, I don't think, unless like we have insane, like a huge difference in like IQ or something, like we should kind of just pump out the same shit. So, but when you learn from things outside of your domain, like when you learn from like e-commerce or you learn from like, you pull from the dark arts of like how do like course sellers sell their stuff? How does stake.com, like how do they kind of market their stuff? Like how do how do even like traditional companies, like what were some ways that traditionally people used to market? And maybe you take the first principles approach from that and you try some new things, and then you know eventually you're able to cook up some interesting stuff. Um, and yeah, I mean, right now our UGC marketing, we have like, I don't know, I think like 200 something UGC creators creating content like every day. We're doing a lot of interesting things um, as well when it comes to UGC that we'll probably reveal maybe in a few months after uh, after we kind of validate it and maybe give ourselves a little bit of time so we don't get completely copycatted from day one. But yeah, I think that's like something I would encourage every viewer to kind of think about. Like, every person who's listening to this, they have their own special like training data and they have their own special things that they're interested in. Is there something that you could pull from like a different domain that is a unique kind of learning when it comes to marketing that maybe other people don't? And it doesn't have to be as crazy as like UGC from e-commerce to SaaS. It could be something as simple as like something you see like you're scrolling TikTok and maybe you're really into like anime edits or something. Like you love like watching like anime compilations to like music or something, and there's an interesting hook that like you notice like every time you see this hook, you just stop scrolling when it comes to like anime, and like you could start asking yourself like, why is it that that is so captivating to you? And maybe there's some corollary of like you can make a similar hook when it comes to your SaaS, something like that. I mean, that's just an example, right? But there's always things you could kind of pull in from other domains, I think. Yeah.
I love that because when I digged a bit like into UGC for SaaS,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
surprised that it's something that looks quite new
Yeah.
on X. You know, people are talking about UGC, while you're right, like in ecom, UGC is pretty old, and they
Yeah. It's
did that
old.
for a while already. And
Yeah.
you basically, yeah, implemented it in SaaS. Like, do you have any other ideas like that? Things that
Other
you
ideas? I mean, there's one idea. I mean, there's one idea that we're doing right now that I think is pretty crazy. But if I say it, my boy Matt will probably like yell at me at the office because we kind of want to keep it on the down low. Let me see if I can think of something that we're not doing that I think is interesting.
what a teasing.
Um, Let me think. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I mean, this is also kind of played out, right? But I mean, this is another example of something that's like what is recently being done, but there's no reason that this shit couldn't have been done like for many, many, many years. Is like in the past you would give like an influencer some percent equity of your company, and then they would just become like the face of the company. And it's obvious, like in hindsight, it's such an obvious win-win, right? Like this person has a distribution, you have like a failing, I don't know, like macaroni business or something, and like you put this influencer's face on your macaroni. Now this influencer doesn't have to like do like an audible ad every video because they now have macaroni they could sell. And then now your macaroni is not just sitting in a warehouse, you could actually sell it. But you could also do this thing for SaaS as well, too, right? Like you could work with some influencer and give them a percent of your company, and then they're happy to kind of become like the face of whatever you've made. And that's a super cost effective way of getting distribution that's now being done. That one's kind of interesting because now I think founders are realizing that because it's so easy to go viral, you could theoretically skip that step, and the founder themselves could become the influencer in tandem with their product, and they could kind of do that. But there was a time like before the TikTokification of everything where influencers were like pretty valuable, and there was probably a sweet spot there where that was obviously pretty good. But yeah, I mean that's like there's just a lot of examples of like things where, you know, it works in other like niches, and it could probably work in SaaS. Um,
I
and
totally, yeah,
yeah,
I
those are the
totally
obvious
agree
ones.
with
Like
that.
there's probably like more. There's probably like people listening right now. There's smart people listening right now. They're gonna find some cool ways
Hmm.
to kind of merge, do like a crossover episode of like their world and their SaaS world, and something cool will happen.
Yeah, but like the example you gave, I think it's still something that anyone can do because I've been
Yeah,
hanging out with a lot of influencers the past few months, like, and I
yeah,
interviewed them as well. And you see that
yeah,
there is people who have a huge audience and don't make money at all, and people who
yeah.
have a really good product and need distribution. And as
Right.
you say, you can just give a share to this influencer, and it could go really fast. And there is so many
Yeah,
examples right now. The last one is like Stephen Bartlett, who
yeah.
launched a podcast, SaaS, I think. And just like because there is his name
Or
now, like it's
Flightcast.
podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Wait. Like Stephen Bartlett, he made like Flightcast with
Yeah,
Rocks.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Shout out Rocks. He's a good dude.
Man, yeah, that's him. And that's the
Yeah,
biggest example. I mean, of course it will work. Stephen Bartlett is one of the biggest
yeah,
podcasts. You build a podcast
exactly.
platform with this guy, it will work. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's
yeah,
plenty of example. To
yeah,
continue
for
on
sure.
that, you have now a startup under Jenni Group. Three of them passed 1 million ARR.
Yeah,
And you say that it took 46 months to go from 0 to 1 million ARR with Jenni and less than 6 months with your latest tool that you built from scratch. What
yeah.
was the, let's say, 80/20 that you brought from Jenni to this new tool that made it blew up so fast?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a little bit cheating because all of these tools are kind of in ed tech. So, it's not like I could take any idea. Like I can't just take like a random B2B SaaS and probably get it from 0 to 1 million because it's not in my wheelhouse. But if it's an ed tech tool, I could probably find the right team, find the right idea, and kind of get that going. Um, I don't know, the replicatable stuff is like, I don't know. I mean, it's another like boring answer. Eventually, you just get like a good nose for it. Like you kind of sniff the ideas that you know are going to convert well. I guess like one of the most valuable things when you're a generalist founder is you can kind of like visualize the the distribution. You could almost visualize the TikTok that will go viral. And you could visualize like, oh, how is the product going to look in that TikTok? What are the comments going to look like? What's the landing page going to look like? What's like the once they get into product, what's it going to look like? What's the paywall look like? What's like and once you can kind of do that, you can kind of have a good idea of like what products are going to be successful. It's not going to be 100%, right? I mean, I have 8 products. Many of them, I mean, more of my products have not made hit a millionaire R than hit a millionaire R. So it's not like I'm always gonna be um, on the money. But the more you kind of are in that world and the more you are experimenting, you do get a little bit better. I think your nose gets a little bit better at just sniffing out the ideas that have a lot of potential. And then just generally, like it's perceived as though second time founders are better at like replicating success because I also think second time founders or third time founders or whatever, like they just move a lot faster. So I know exactly like what's the smoke test or the A/B test I should run right now that will either validate it or immediately kill it, like within this week. And then that allows me to like churn through, 10 ideas in the same time where one person is always thinking, oh, if I just add one more feature, then it'll work. Or if I just fix this one kind of problem, if I, get this one type of like I have this one I don't know, like a meeting coming up. Like that meeting's gonna solve everything, and like it's hard to kind of get out of that mindset when you're first starting out. But obviously, once you've kind of uh, had as much experience with multiple products, you're a lot less like it's a lot less holy. These products they become a lot less. Um, it's a lot less weight, so you're able to move a lot faster as well. So, yeah, sorry, I want to be actionable. Like, what's like something that a viewer could learn, I guess, for like replicating what we did. Um, I would say, uh, I would say you don't want to stick with any idea if you're not able to like monetize it like really early on. If you're not able to monetize it really early on, then you should probably just let it go. That's something that's like a hard lesson. It's easy to kind of hear, but it's like a hard lesson to actually like implement, and that will save you a lot of time. You should also be thinking about like not just the product itself, but how the product lends itself to distribution. Like these things for me in my mind are kind of like they're they're kind of they live on kind of the same plane for me. Like for example, like sometimes a video could go viral. Like this happened for one of our products. Like um, a video went viral for one of our tools, and the feature that was promoted in that video was like one of the really small features in the tool. Like it was not even the main feature in the tool. And so what we did was that we immediately rejigged the entire product, and now that small feature became like the main feature, and we redid the landing page and everything. And like now we have a TikTok video format that we know can continue to go viral, and now we have a product that can cater more towards something that we know that the users resonate with. The users actually like they want to see this type of content. They have this sort of pain point. When they see this solution, they're delighted. So yeah, I would encourage if you want to like replicate what we've done, I would encourage you to think about your product not just from the lens of a product. You should think about it in the lens of like how do people discover the product? What parts of the product is shown when they discover like what's the position of the product? And then when you kind of think about it holistically like that, probably the product itself will change and how you do your marketing will change because you're looking at it from both sides. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, it does. And I think you repeat often the same that you basically have to listen. When
Yeah,
we started this conversation, I asked you, how would you find an ID? You say, I will listen to the people around me. I will talk to them and see what they are struggling with and find an
yeah,
ID for a product.
yeah,
And then now you say that you actually listen to people on TikTok or any
yeah,
platform and see how they react to your product to actually shape your product. So
exactly.
it feels like what you're building doesn't happen in the office, but it happens
Right.
outside of like what you get from the people. And I think that's really
100%.
valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I was like the Steve Jobs type of guy where I don't need to listen. I know exactly what the users want. I can just like I'm a super genius. I'm not really like that, you know. I'm I'm just like a normal guy. I don't really have like these grandiose kind of visions or these like really powerful gut feelings. So I'm just relegated to trying to learn as much as I can from the users and just generally from people around me. But the good news is, statistically, if you're listening to this, you're probably also not Steve Jobs level. So you can also kind of learn how an everyman is able to build a product. You kind of it's kind of like you don't want to take dating advice from like the guy who's like 6'4", super jacked, and just like amazing head of hair. Like you don't want to take dating advice from that guy because it's like obviously like he's just gonna say like really weird advice like, oh, just like be yourself or like say hi, right? So in the same way, like you don't want to take advice from someone who's just like naturally every single idea they just naturally come up with, just like $1 billion idea, just like, oh, you want to raise money? Oh, why don't you just like email the head of Sequoia and like they would just like so what I'm saying is like I am the not 6'4" jacked equivalent in like the startup space of like I'm like a normal, somewhat normal guy. So hopefully, um, that resonates with people where like they don't have to um like like my stuff should work for you because it worked despite me not graduating from like the most prestigious university or like having crazy connections or being like 180 IQ, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, you're a normal guy, but you're almost at 10 million a year. When you see the dashboard, like you open your dashboard and you see this amount of money, knowing where you come from, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like it's normal now, or do you still have the fear of this disappearing tomorrow?
Uh, that's a good question. I mean, I guess it kind of feels just like I kind of have to force myself to like feel like how crazy it is sometimes, I guess. Like the humble answer would be like, oh, every day, like it's just like so crazy. But the sad truth is like the hedonic treadmill, the speed always seems to increase on the treadmill. So it's like when I was at 1 million, it was like crazy for like a few weeks. And then it's business as usual. And then you hit 2 million and then 5 million, 10 million. And now we're basically at 10 million and it feels amazing, but my mind's already thinking like, how do I get to 20 million? How do I get to 100 million? In the same ways, like change is just kind of hard to quantify in general, like whether no matter what marketing problem I have, like whether I was at like $0 or $1,000 or $1 million a year, $10 million a year, like it still consisted of me in the same Slack channel, like talking with the same people, walking into like the same WeWorks or whatever. So externally, it's hard to kind of feel like, oh, am I getting better as a marketer? Because like it feels like you're doing the same thing every day, and you're kind of having the same amount of pain and struggle every day. But what's actually happening is like the problems you're solving are getting more complex every day. But so you are kind of seeing that change. The same way, like to your question, like the ARR, every number is bigger, but it kind of feels the same because it took the same amount of pain to get to that number. And there's still a lot of pain that I'm anticipating for the next milestone that I have to go to. So um, yeah, I mean, I try to like be intentionally, grateful from time to time. And I like to think about like how lucky I am and how if I was 20 years old and I saw like these numbers in my bank account, I would literally like be in a mental ward because I'd be like running around the street naked, just I would just be so happy I wouldn't know what to do. But um, it's crazy. And I do think about sometimes like this could be all taken from me, some like stranger things have happened. And that also, I think, probably adds to a little bit of the anxiety of the higher we go, the more people that I don't want to let down, the more kind of users I don't want to let down, and the more kind of this legacy that I hope that I can build, not just for myself, but for like my family and like for everyone else that's kind of like staked their own legacy to like Jenny's um, outcomes. Like that's a lot of responsibility. So yeah, I try to be grateful, but it's like it's still. I mean, being a 10 million ARR, it's still like a lot of like still it's there's a lot of problems that come at being this size. And honestly, like there are some people listening to this podcast thinking like, man, this guy's like talking as though 10 million ARR is a lot, and they're listening and they're at 100 million, they're like a billion, right? And so, um, yeah, it's just all about perspective. I don't know. I mean, dude, I'm like, sorry, I've been up since like 7 a.m. I don't know if what I'm saying is making any fucking sense, but like, it's
And it
it's a it's
does,
a
like,
it's been a wild ride, yeah.
honestly, I listen to you and it does because, like, I have my girlfriend next to me and she's always remember me that, like, she was with me 6 years ago when
Yeah.
the number I do today were crazy for me to imagine. And now we are
Yeah.
there. And she's remember me like, yeah, look at what you did. Like, this is like crazy what you do. But the
Yeah.
problem is that when you grow with your business and you make more money, you're also surrounded by people who actually make more money than you. And then it
Yeah.
becomes the base, like the normal
Yeah.
thing to do. And
Exactly.
then, as you say,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, but this guy that I met at this conference last week make 100 million a year. So like 10
Exactly.
million is just like not a lot, which is crazy.
Right. I know. I mean, it seems like your girlfriend is a very positive force in your
She
life, and
is.
that's a keeper for sure. Just to like keep reminding you about like how far you've come. I think my parents do. My girlfriend does that for me as well, and my parents do that for me as well. And yeah, I think it's like a super important kind of like just thing to remember, I guess. Yeah.
It is. And I have a question about your personal life, actually. A year ago, you
Okay.
shared on Twitter your time in New York, and you said,
Uh-huh.
I have enough money now to afford a table for two anywhere in the world, but it's
Yeah.
impossible to fill the other seat. How
Yeah.
is your personal life in December 2025?
I mean, my personal life now is like so much better than it was. When I wrote that post a year ago, dude, it was like it was probably the worst time of my entire life because one, uh, my my co-founder and I split up amicably. I still like my co-founder. I hope he still likes me, but like it's still very hard to lose a co-founder. And my girlfriend of 3 years and I broke up because I was working too hard. My close friend died that year, like my really close friend. It was a freak accident. Um, and there was like other things I can't even. Oh, my close family member was going through like a really bad relationship, like textbook, just like terrible relationship. Anyways, I don't want to turn this into a therapy session, but like it was so terrible, and it was. I mean, I don't want to like do stolen valor and say like I was depressed or anything because I don't think I was like depressed, but like I was very sad. Like I was probably I don't I mean I had to go to like therapy. I went to therapy for many months because of how terrible that time was. But yeah, to answer your question, now it's like way better, dude. Like uh, time heals all wounds. I have like a great girlfriend now who's amazing, kind, warm, just like really way more understanding about like how I much I work and like my dreams and um, the company, that issue was all settled and it's totally good now. And my co-founder's thriving. He's doing his new startup and like I invested in his startup and he's um, the void that he left when he left, we were able to fill that and we got a new kind of CTO and it all worked out perfectly and yeah, it was really tough for a long time, but now, um, I see that I learned a lot from those experiences. And yeah, I guess if there's anybody who's like listening who's like feels like they're in that kind of the belly of the whale and just like it literally felt like everything was going wrong. I don't think there was any vector in my life that was going good. Like it was just the worst possible. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong like about a year ago, year and a half ago. But um I'm glad that I was just able to kind of put one foot in front of the other, and now things are obviously much better. So yeah.
I'm really super happy for you to
Thank you, bro.
hear that. It's
Yeah,
really cool for you, man.
it was a crazy,
And
crazy time.
you had like the past few years were pretty hectic. I didn't know this part of it, but like, you drop out of college, you
Yeah,
had a lot of failure business-wise,
yeah,
you beat cancer, and that's
yeah,
amazing. You had this crazy year in 2024, and now
yeah.
you're, I think, on a good path, making crazy amount of
Hope
money.
so.
Personal life is going better. What would young David, let's say 16 years old, think about you right now?
Dang, you know what's crazy? 16-year-old David, I think one of the reasons that I, like I said earlier in the interview, like one of the most important things I think for me was that I have a pretty high risk tolerance. I'm able to gamble anything if it kind of makes sense. And um, the reason that I'm able to do that is because even if I go to absolute zero, even if I go to like $500,000 in debt, I know that my mom and dad will always have just like a couch or a bedroom for me. I can always go back and they will never judge me. They'll be like, it's fine. You'll work through the debt. The next business will be even better. That's like the kind of people that they are. And when I was 16 years old, my parents had that same mentality for me. Like they really believed in me. Ever since I was 10 years old, my mom would always tell me that I was going to be like the first Asian president in history. She would always tell me that. And she'd always say, like, you know, anything I wanted to do, I could do it. I was the funniest, I was the kindest, I was the smartest, whatever, whatever I needed to hear that day, my mom would always like tell me. And I think there were some years of my life where I was a little too maybe like big-headed because my mom pumped me up with like so much love and support. Some would argue maybe even to this day, maybe I have a little bit too big of a head. I try to be humble, but like, my mom really instilled that in me. So anyways, the answer to your question is my 16-year-old self would probably be kind of like, okay, I kind of expected to be in that spot. Or maybe he might even be a little bit disappointed because he expected to be like on his way to being the first Asian president of the United States. Like I'm 29 now, so by the time I'm 29, maybe expected that like I was already like getting all the accolades necessary to be like the first president. This is not a joke. Like my mom genuinely believed I would be the
It's
first Asian president of the United
amazing.
States.
I
And
love
I
it.
think that is like sounds so ridiculous and crazy, but growing up, that was really helpful to me because I was never like the smartest kid. I was never like the most athletic kid. I was never like the most like good looking or like whatever kid, but I was still confident despite having not really any like quantifiable thing that is tied to confidence. Because of them, like I was really able to, you know, do the things that I wanted to do, which is like make a business, which is to some people a very daunting thing. So, yeah, my 16-year-old self will probably be slightly underwhelmed, perhaps, if you saw how I was doing today.
Well, I love that actually because it's just beautiful to have your parents behind you. And I think when
100%.
people
Yeah,
you love believe in you, it makes you do really huge thing. And I was talking about my
100%.
girlfriend, fiance actually, like
Oh, wow,
she
congrats.
is, thanks. She is
Yeah,
for me, like she's like always behind me and always makes me dream even bigger because she believes in me. And I think that
Yeah.
Having people around you like that is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And when are you guys getting married?
Man, that's a good question. We
Too
have
busy
to
doing
organize that.
podcasts.
Yeah,
Can't find time to actually get married.
yeah, exactly. No, we will, but it's just like we have to organize that and do that in Europe. So
I see, I see.
yeah, but soon,
Well,
soon.
cool.
Do you have something to say to someone who is watching now and actually want to follow your path or is inspired by what you've built? A big advice you would give him or her?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest advice would be that uh you kind of have to like be extremely skeptical of like everything, you know? Like for example, when I was younger, I was very easily malleable to like everything. Like you know, some guy would show up on my Instagram reel saying like your 20s and 30s are for grinding, you're not supposed to have any fun. And then I'd be like, "Oh shit, I guess I'm not supposed to have any fun." And then some other person would come and be like, "Life is all about, balance and it's all about you know, like not grinding, the opposite." And then I'd start thinking in that direction. And obviously, as you get older, this is so clearly not the right way to live life. But if you're younger, it's kind of hard to kind of differentiate between, someone who's actually giving you advice and someone who's low key giving you advice because they want you to subscribe to their newsletter or they want you to join their course or because they just want to get followers and they know that this hook that they say just always gets views. And this hook maybe is something old they don't even really believe anymore. But because they want to keep growing, they need to keep saying the same thing. You don't know the incentives of why anybody's saying it. You have no idea what my incentive is to show up on this podcast. You've been listening to me. If you made it towards the end here, you've listened to me for like 50 minutes, an hour now. But you should be very curious why I came on this podcast to like share all these things. Like why, like what is the reason, And when you start thinking like that, like what is the incentives of this person telling me these things, you could be a lot more critical about like what you ingest and like what you actually kind of um, can use to shape your worldview. So yeah, for anybody who's younger and who kind of hopes to, get to um, like some semblance of indie success, bootstrapping, seed strapping success, whatever, I would say try not to be easily swayed by what you see on your timelines. Everything's kind of fake. Like everything is you can pay money to pretty much get amplified everywhere, and you don't even know what's real and what's fake um, on what you see, and that should be something that you're always kind of thinking about in the back of your head. And if you see the world through that lens, it probably reduces like serendipity and a little bit of like your naive kind of happiness a little bit. But I think it'll make you a bit more of uh, a better learner, maybe, and it'll help you um, see the world for what it actually is. So yeah, it's a long little rant I did, but I think it's really important advice because had I followed that, it would have saved me a lot of time. I would have worshipped way fewer false idols, and I would have gone earlier into the path of like kind of building my own like model of how I wanted to see the world and what it looks like to be the founder that I wanted to be and build the company that I wanted to build. So, yeah, that's my piece of advice.
Perfect way to end this podcast, David.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope we could do this again. Sometime later down the line.
I would love that, man.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you. Bye
man.
bye.